In this example, we're going to show executing sub workflows from within a parent workflow. So as you look at the screen here, this is the ServiceNow Workflow Designer, and this is the parent workflow that we're looking at here. So this is the catalyst for this that kicks this off is this Wells ad hoc tasks. So when a record is inserted into that table, this workflow will start. And so I wanted to demonstrate how you can take information from the parent workflow and pass it into the child workflows, and then how you can get return values back from the child workflows. We're just going to do some simple things here, but you could pass as many variables in and back out as you need. So here I'm going to go into the Subflow one, and you'll notice this is an activity that lets me call a subflow, so you can drag it and drop it. I've indicated the workflow that I'm calling. I've mapped the return value to this Subflow1 result value that will come back into the parent flow. And then this task description is actually the input, one of the inputs for the subflow. Actually the only input for the subflow. And that will, we're going to just statically pass that in. So that's Subflow1. And the way that got on there is via this toolbox over here to the right. So you can see we have Subflow1 and Subflow2. So these are actually workflows that were created and dragged and dropped. I'll go into them here in a second. Subflow2 is same thing. I've just put 2 on there so you can see that we've got 2 different flows that we're working with here, because this is going to run in parallel, and we're going to have some wait states and then a join, and then we're going to take the return values and show them in a task. So let me go ahead and open this workflow. Actually, I need to check this out, I think, first. So open this workflow and show you how this works. So this is a subflow, and I have defined inputs for the flow. So in this case, we're just taking in task description. So that's the input. I can show you that here real quick too. So you can define all these. You can have complex types as input as well. Go back to our flow. So we've just got one input defined. And then what I'm doing here is taking the input value and mapping it to a local variable. So right here. So the workflow input task description is going to be assigned to our Scratchpad task description. And then downstream of this step, I'm creating a task. And in there, I'm setting the task short description to the value that's been passed in. And then the last thing here, I'm setting a return value. And I've just statically set that to Subflow1 work, so we can see that we've gotten data back from the subflow. Did the exact same thing for the Subflow2, so I won't go into that. Oops, let me open the right one here because I've got this checked out. So Subflow2 is the same way. Then we do a join, and down here, because we're defining these return values, we're going to get these variables into our process. And down here for create task, you can see where we can define the description of the task as the outputs from both of those subflows. So Subflow1 result, Subflow2 result. So what I'll do now is go ahead and check this in, or publish it, and then I'll create I'll kick off an instance of the flow. So this is getting created via a Wells ad hoc task being created. So if I just go up here and go to new, I don't need to put anything in here. I could, but I don't need to. Just going to go ahead and submit this. And so simply by doing that, now we have an instance of workflow that started, and you can see we have 2 tasks that have been automatically created. You'll also notice that the short description has been passed in from the parent to the child flow. Show the workflow. And this is the parent flow here, so you can see we have a number of tabs up here. I actually have another workflow that I won't talk about, but that's a separate one that's executing as well off of the ad hoc task table. So we've started, we've got our 2 subflows. They're in a wait state because they have tasks waiting completion, and we've passed data into them. If I go to Subflow1, you can see there we're at the wait state there. Subflow2, same deal, we're at the wait state there. So now what we can do is go back to our Wells ad hoc task that spawned the workflow. And I can just come down to these tasks, do a closed complete on subflow 1. And now if we go back and look at our diagram, and I go to subflow 1 and I refresh it, you can see that one has completed, but subflow 2 is still in a wait state, and parent flow will reflect that subflow 1 is completed, but we're in a wait state for subflow 2. Go back up here and complete subflow 2. Now we go back to subflow 2 in the diagram, refresh that. You can see that that is actually completed now. If we go to the parent flow, refresh that, you can see that we've gone out of subflow 2, we've gone to our join, and now we have a test, a create task here. I call it test subflows. And now if we go back to our record, you can see that we've completed those first two, so those are completed, but because those two completed, after the join we created an additional task, and you can see I've just concatenated the result values from those two subflows in here, so you can see that you're getting data back from those child flows. If I go in and complete this task, and then go back to our parent flow and refresh it, the process is completed. So this demonstrates how to take data from a parent flow, pass it into a subflow, and then have the subflow pass data, return data back into the parent flow. It also shows parallel processing and wait states, branching and joining. Okay, we'll do a couple of other videos as well for some of the other questions that are out there, but that covers that bit.